And you are live.
So see if Lisa's going to show up. 7:03. And call to order. Well, here we are. The minutes had a few mistakes.
Yeah, absent is spelled incorrectly.
Right.
There are a lot of mistakes in that minute. Those minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you want to take them and hold it till next time and have people give you comments, because there are a
Right.
lot.
It's quite a few. And well, Jordan, now that I know how Jordan's name is spelled, I can see that's the first one. Yeah, there's quite a few. Spinker. So yeah, we see there's quite a few things that need to be changed on that. So we'll put that aside then, maybe do that on manually.
Okay, there is one point I would like to make. I recognize there's a lot of grammatical stuff and spelling and that kind of thing. But under the Norwalk Historical Society, Diane Jelleret, the first thing it says is Ms. Jelleret showed up.
Yeah, that's awful.
That was a little, she decided to show up.
Unusual occurrence. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that had to change. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to get that in there before we got down to the.
We agree.
Okay. Insert the word finally before it.
Oh, Tom, you get the Bugs Bunny Rascally Wabbit Award for the evening.
All right. Public participation. I don't see anyone visiting today. Nope. Reports from boards.
Well, unless you want to count me as public participation, since I'm not a member.
Oh, right. Well, I think we're going to have you down later on, right?
Okay.
For demolition delay and stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's why I sent you the invite, but you're kind of always automatically there anyway. But Diane, are you ready for the NHS?
Sure. Hi, everybody.
Finally.
And literally, I got this email for the invite literally 10 minutes ago.
Oh, whoops.
We're glad you're here. Yes, so this will be short. So we did our self-guided tour the end of June. That went really well, and it's probably something that we're going to expand upon coming this next coming year. So we're excited about doing that. We're continuing to work on the exhibit, so that's coming up this fall for the new exhibition. That's remember the Ice Age to before 1835 for Norwalk's changing community. So that is moving along. We're just authorized the fabricator to start creating our new panels. So it's like, okay, it's getting to be real. So that's coming along, and we're setting up the programming. And Eric, you're going to be doing one of our lectures coming this fall. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So everybody's going to be getting invites. So we'll be starting that. We're going to try to do that in person and probably hybrid. We're just going to see where things are, with COVID and as things are rising. But we're planning on doing in person, but we'll probably also do virtual at the same time. New experiment for everybody. So we'll see how all that works. So that's what's coming up this fall. And the Mill Hill Garden Party is going to be August 20th. So we are going to do that like we did 2 years ago. And so that's going to be a Friday night at Mill Hill. So invitations will be going out for that. Bring your lawn chairs.
Yeah.
And then we're going to try to do, right now we're just calling it the backyard party at the museum in September. Again, it'll be another Friday night. So we hadn't really christened our backyard at the museum yet. So that would be a first time outing on that. So keep that on your calendars. And so that's what we're up to right now. Any questions?
Yeah, do you rent out the area behind the museum for parties and stuff?
We haven't done that yet, but we can.
Because there's a resident here that had wanted to have a birthday party,
Yeah.
an evening party, but it's against our condo rules, and she was looking for another site to have a party with a live band for about 50 people.
Okay,
So I don't
we
know
have
if
not
that's-
done that yet, and we haven't set up a contracts to do that since we haven't even christened the backyard yet.
Okie dokie.
All right.
I just have one thing to add to Diane's report. I've been working with Diane and Darren Raymond Locke. Some of you may know Darren. She's an amazing researcher. She's written all the text for the interpretive signs that we've been doing at all of the historic sites. I've asked her to work on helping us sort out the city collection. As I think most of you know, or you may not know, we have a very large collection of objects, most of which is related to Norwalk's history, that the city owns, and that we outsource the management of that to the Historical Society as part of the museum. The objects are located in the ground floor of the Health Department building at City Hall and one of the basement rooms in the museum. When we moved the museum contents from the rented space, the old City Hall in South Norwalk, it took us about 8 months, and everything is stored safely, but it's not stored how it should be stored long-term. And we do know there are some things that are not really related to Norwalk history. So our long-term goal for the city's collection is to blow out the space. We have the whole ground floor of the health department underneath the first floor. It's kind of a walkout basement. You know, it's all daylight on the side facing East Avenue. Our plan is to eventually open up that space and build what's called an open storage collection, so that all the items will be secured and safe and secure, but the public would be able to walk through and see everything in the collection. They wouldn't be curated exhibits. It would just be labels, and literally you have everything you own. You have everything that we own out for display. It is also easier to manage the collection that way because you can easily see what you have. So, but before we do that, one of the things that's necessary is to really go through the collection and really determine any extraneous items that we have. And I know from conversations with Ralph Bloom, we have a large porcelain collection, China kind of related objects. And Ralph told me that many of those objects were just things that people donated, like their grandmother's china, that aren't necessarily Norwalk specific or historic to Norwalk. And we have 2,000 to 3,000 pieces taking up a whole room. So I've had Darren she's working on going through that particular collection right now. She's looking at all of the paperwork we have in the files, determining, what do we have paperwork for? What is Norwalk specific? And then she's also had Ralph come in and say, tell us, who gave us what, and what really was just filler objects for the museum before they received the collection from Lockwood family. So anyway, I'm giving you all this detail. And as we go through the painting collection, as we go through the textiles, the furnitures, you know, there's some have a few items, some have more than others that really aren't things we need to keep in the long run. And so part of our policy and our agreement, which needs to be forwarded, the collections policy that the commission adopted in 2011, all of you should get copies of it and become familiar with it. But eventually, sometime later this year, Darren and Diane will be coming to the commission and bringing the objects for you to look at that we're recommending to be deaccessioned. Because, you know, they're not worth keeping. They take up storage space, you know, and don't really relate to anything. So we want to carefully cull the collection of items that really aren't specific to Norwalk. So I'm just giving you this as an advance warning. Anytime any museum talks about deaccessioning anything, people go nuts. Oh my gosh, you're getting rid of the past and all this stuff. So, but museums do it all the time for various reasons. But you know, the place to start is the things that really don't relate to Norwalk history. This Historical Society, we did the same kind of culling back in 2010, 2011. And we had a bunch of stuff that was just junk that we just got rid of. And then we had some items that were historic, but they weren't really related to Norwalk. So we actually donated a number of items to historical societies across Connecticut where it was something that was meaningful to them, but not particularly to us. So there's multiple ways you go about getting rid of things. And then if you actually sell something, the rule is that money goes towards either buying new objects that are related that you need for the collection or for the care of the collection, not to go into general operations and that kind of thing. So I'm just telling you all this just to give you as a commission a heads up of what will be coming. We'll send out the collections policy manual that's actually pretty detailed that the commission adopted years ago. Just a heads up, because we want to get the collection down to, you know, just things that are really important to Norwalk. And, you know, anything that, you know, we recommend that you think we should keep, you know, we'll keep. It's not that big of a deal. But certainly things that don't have any historic value, things that don't relate to Norwalk, then there's really no reason for us to spend resources on keeping them, maintaining them, storing them, etc. So anyway, that's my spiel for tonight. If you have any questions, just feel free to let me know or ask. Thanks.
Thank you. And do we have, it looks like we don't have Susie or Patsy. I hope the old email gremlin didn't take care of both of their emails invites again. So I guess we won't have a report from Lockwood right this minute. So next up is reports, and buildings is top of the list.
So buildings, I'm really close to getting the work started on the hardscape around the barn and the jail. I'm just like a broken record every month. But the contract has been signed by the city and by the contractor. The city has sent the contract out on the 20th, but the contractor hasn't received the contract. I did get rid of the utility poles and got the fire hydrant moved. I'm so happy about that. So hopefully that project's going to start sometime in August. We'll have a kickoff meeting and move that forward. And then the next thing up will be the kitchen at the museum that I'm planning. Just by the way, the restoration work on the veranda, they're planning on restoring the next section of the veranda. We're doing like 4 post worth at a time. So that's about to kick off, I think, next week. And we'll probably continue for another year. There were some leaks in the big rain at the mansion, the 7 inches of rain we had in 24 hours. We did have some leaks that we had a roofer look at it. We've got estimates of $8,000 or $10,000 or so. So we're looking at that really carefully to see what we want to do there. I think that's kind of it on buildings. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Next up is cemeteries. I just took a peek at Brookside just to make sure none of this flood damage. It's far enough away, 200 or 300 yards at the front from the stream, but I did find a dead tree I need to mark, and that's about all I have, unless Mark has visited any. Nope, Mark.
I haven't seen anything else. I was at Pine Island and that was fine.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess one question I have for you, David, is should I call Bates for putting in a foundation for the stone? I got a call from the place in Ansonia about the Ms. Berry's grave needs a foundation put in.
Well, that for the base of the monument.
Right.
So that whoever they're going to have install it needs to do that. I mean, that's not our responsibility to do.
Okay.
If you want to help them get an estimate,
I think they don't. Well, yeah, it was weird because the person from the monument company called me, and I think we all know where the grave is, Holly and I at least. So it's just a matter of, because I don't think Bates wants to put a monument base in for somebody else's monument, but we can just discuss that later. But
yeah, but that's not, I mean, it's not our responsibility, but we're front of base. I mean, that's
Right.
the monument company should do that, whoever they hired.
Right.
That's part of the deal.
Okay. So that's it for cemeteries. Next up is financial.
It's a new budget year, so we've got plenty of money. I don't have the final reports for the year end, but I think we spent most everything that we were given on the expense budget and making progress in the capital budget. The one thing that we're starting to think about is, of course, because as soon as a new budget year starts, it's time to start doing the next year's budget. So because all that will kick off in September. I've going to really press hard. I want to get an estimate from Guardian Services that manages all of the other buildings in the cities to manage our buildings. It's time. I mean, most of our buildings are in good shape now. And, it's unrealistic to expect volunteers to continue to manage the buildings. We've done it for over 10 years. I really, when the roof leaks, it's really not my problem. So, I mean, it is because there's nobody else to do it, but it's time for the city to step up to the plate. It's going to cost money. I mean, it's going to be probably substantial. I don't really have any idea, but we have saved the city $2 million, $1.9 million over the last 10 years. So since we redid how we do things, so it's time that we're going to have to add some money. The city, is going to have to start taking care of it because, we just really can't do this anymore. It's just not, we're not doing as good a job as we should be. And it's not fair to ask volunteers to do this. So I will be pressing hard on getting that into next year's budget so that we actually have staff that does that. Anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next up is old business. I don't think we have any old business. So we'll move on to new business, and we need to discuss extending the demolition delay from 120 to 180 days. And what's everyone's opinion on that, and how should we word this, etc.?
Well, I mean, I like what Todd sent with the verbiage. I mean,
Right.
it makes sense. As long as we have some kind of clear outline what the demolition entails, then I think that gives us more backing for delaying any type of demolition.
Right.
Dana, if I can jump in,
Okay.
I spoke to Lisa Shanahan, who's the chair of the ordinance committee. And just to be realistic here, it's not going to get on the agenda this year.
Okay.
So the earliest would be sometime in November, maybe. Because of the way that the calendar lines up and the things that the committee's already looking at, it's just not going to get on the agenda.
Okay, so at the moment, there's not a pressing need, but
That doesn't mean we can't get in the
Right.
queue.
No,
Yeah,
definitely
right,
not. I just
yeah.
want to manage expectations. So
Right.
But
I
I
think
think
so-
it's worthwhile getting something in just
Yeah.
to
right.
do it. And then, so it'll get onto the agenda as soon as it can. And another thing about the extension that occurred to me was one of the reasons that it was extended from 90 days to 120 is that 90 days really doesn't give you guys, the commission, time to decide whether you're going to do a public hearing, to have a regular meeting and do a public hearing, because you ended up in several times in the past having to schedule special meetings to do a public hearing on a demo delay. So it doesn't give you enough time to do what you need to do real due diligence. 180 would give you enough time, and these definitions would make it clear what demolition means. And that would help a lot about whether or not to invoke a delay. Now, to be honest, Preservation Trust has invoked almost all the delays so far, and I think that although anyone can invoke one, including the commission, although there was a kind of a spurious legal opinion during the Mocha era that you might want to revisit.
Kells Surprise.
Pardon
We
me?
always
So what
invoke
do you
it on
guys think?
our own behalf. The only thing I kind of disagree on Todd's listing is the lifting of a building, relocating. I guess that does affect its historical value, but for instance, I know a house in Belle Island of all places has been, I'm not sure if it's moved yet, but they lifted it in order to they're putting in an orchard, but in that case, the house would be otherwise torn down. And also on Wilson Avenue, a house there was moved rather than have it bulldozed for a parking lot. So in some cases, moving a building is better than losing it altogether.
Well, that's like the White House in Stanford.
Right.
Oh, wait.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
all that's true, but I mean, just because you need a demo permit to do that doesn't mean that there would be a delay necessarily.
Right. We need to keep an eye on things like that house on things that are being torn down and no notice. And is there any punishment or ramifications for builders
Yeah.
doing this?
Is there a way? I mean, I don't know. Does it go to you, Dana, when someone fills out the demo permit?
Usually, but not always.
Okay.
I mean, for example, the one you found, whenever the past couple days, Melrose.
It's supposed to.
Yeah.
Go to Dana.
Sorry to interrupt, but what denotes where it goes once a permit is filed? Like, how do we end up with some coming to one and then going somewhere else?
I think it's the applicant's duty when they file with buildings to notify head of planning and zoning and historical commission, and also like publicly notice it in some type of newspaper. I need to look into what the repercussions are of not doing that. But like you all say, it is required. And so the idea that it isn't happening in every case does seem wrong and problematic.
They're supposed to notify the head of the historical commission. Sometimes they send the notices to Diane and Norfolk Historical Society because nobody can understand the difference. And then, so we rely on that. And then the other thing is Bell Island generally in the past has been really good about, anytime he gets an application, he then notifies Todd and he notifies the historical commission. But something kind of happened in the last year. It hasn't been as dependable as it was in the last couple of years anyway.
What would it take to make this process electronic rather than paper, so that everyone could then automatically everybody who needs to be notified would automatically be notified, and also to require a photograph? That doesn't seem like it'd be all that difficult. I mean, it's a city process. I mean,
Yeah.
Make it easier for buildings as well. Anybody know what it would take to do that?
I don't know. I
But
know
I think-
Stanford has the picture. I don't know when they switch to that format or whether they do it electronically.
Yeah, I mean, if there was just a form to fill out as opposed to having to fill out a paper form and take it down to City Hall, and then
Yeah.
somebody scans it, and maybe it comes to where maybe it goes where it's supposed to go, and maybe it doesn't. Although they're better lately than they have been.
I think it's just like any electronic application. Someone just needs to create it, and then it's part of the city database.
Right.
I think, Todd, I think they are trying to
I think they were
bring
working on it.
permitting online, so maybe we try and get that as part of it.
Right.
P and Z.
That would be great. Do you know anything about that, Laura?
I know that various processes are trying to move online, but I don't know about the demo delays specifically.
Well, I bet that's
Um,
not, but we have to put that in, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a
Could you-
delay necessarily, but it'd be just the
The
application.
demo permits, right?
Right.
Something that's
ask-
something that's kind of weird to me is that along with notifying the historical commission, they're really also supposed to notify P and Z too. So I was hoping I could be like another layer of, okay, if you guys don't get it, maybe I'll get it. But at least for these two, I haven't gotten anything either. So it does seem like the ball is being dropped by
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
Laura, could you find out from Bell Ireland if that's something he's planning on automating, or I don't know who's
Sure.
running that. If you could track that down, that would be helpful. Todd, just one question for you. The definitions that you submitted, are those from like the Connecticut Trust or somebody? So those
Yeah,
are already, those have already been vetted by legal people, right? Those are
As far as
solid
I know.
definitions? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that comes out of the model demolition delay ordinance that
Okay.
Preservation Connecticut has on their website.
so I would just, again, and I would encourage the commission to make whatever you're requesting, the change in the ordinance, to be as simple and straightforward as possible. Change the number from 120 to 180 and add the definitions and cite where those definitions came from, if they came from the model delay ordinance, because that will help legal and the ordinance committee sort through it. When we start sort of asking for stuff beyond that, then it's like a year of debate over,
Right.
should we use and or the, or, I mean, it just goes on and on forever. So I just, since we don't have a window this year to get this done, then, because I was going to say, just go for the number and then go back and add the definitions. But since we have to wait anyway, I would do them both. You'll really have to wait probably until end of November, December to submit a formal letter, that should come from the commission, passed by a resolution. Please make these changes to the ordinance. you know, and write them in. But I would, you know, you might add the photograph thing, but I wouldn't do anything beyond that because it'll slow it way down and you'll never get it done.
I absolutely agree,
I
David.
totally agree.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that with that letter, you know, you want to give as much backup as possible, you know, support for it. But Todd, go back to something David said, you know, asked you about the demolition definition. I think it's really important that it is coming from the state. But so I assume they've considered one of the things that's going to come up immediately is how is the flooding issue going to affect this at all? I mean, people raise their houses, move their houses for flooding.
Right.
And I assume that's been thought through, but I want to make sure we think it through. Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
The thing is that when Todd and I got the change to 120, I kept pointing out to the commission, I mean, to the ordinance committee, one of the things we did was we went through and said, this is how often we've actually invoked the delay. And, you know, it's like once a year. I mean, hardly ever does it get to that point. And once you do get to the point where you're invoking the delay, you know, you've probably already lost the battle anyway. They're going to wait it out. But you know, the ordinance committee is going to worry that it's going to, you know, not allow people to do this and that and that. The reality is that it's you know, the last resort, and we rarely get to that point because the idea is that the ordinance itself is the deterrent, and so that people know that it's there. It's this process they have to go through, so they'll avoid going through it if they can, to not get to that point, because nobody wants to go through this because it's not any fun. It's bad press and all that stuff. So it's more of a deterrent than anything else. But the commission has a really good track record of working, you know, pretty successfully, even in the situations where demolitions occurred. We've at least gotten a few things out of it. So, you know, what like Tom said, and the backup has to be very strong and all that. And then we'll have to say it over and over again to them too. So.
Yeah, another point to make is, I mean, this is not obviously every building in the city, right? So we want to define the universe down to what it really is. So, you know, that will help contain some people, hopefully. And Todd, what do you think? What do you think the percentage of Norwalk building would be covered by that, is covered by this?
Well, it's 50 years old and older at the moment. But the thing is, as David said, I mean, and buildings is supposed to keep track of how many demolitions were permitted and how many were delayed. And I think you will come up with a pretty small number. I mean, even once a year is rare.
And I would,
like
yeah.
David said, sorry, but like David said, it really does become more of a deterrent than anything else. SEPA, that's what's, when I first started working on 93 East Avenue and first discovered SEPA, the woman who was running that program at the time said the mere existence of this law has saved more buildings than the actual use of it.
But, you know, I would say, you know, there are a lot of buildings, you know, I would guess that probably 60% of the buildings in Norwalk are 50 years or older. There's 35,000 buildings. So
Right.
it applies to a huge amount, but, you know, 90% of those are not historic in any way. And often, you know, 8 out of the 10 applications that I saw, you know, I would look at the building and I would call Todd and we'd look at it and we'd say, okay, let's bring our axes and shovels and we'll meet them over there and help them tear that horrible building down. Because most of the time, you know, most of the demo applications are for stuff we want to go away.
Right.
It's rare that you see one that
Absolutely.
You know, really matters. I mean, it's usually that, please, can you start tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give you an example, a current example. 8 Sunwich Road in Rowayton. Now that was yeah,
Frank Bay.
Frank and Valley Faye's house. Now, it's significant because it was their house. But we, the Preservation Trust voted not to invoke the delay because the house itself has no particular architectural value. And how can you possibly justify asking somebody to, to save a house that has no architectural value just because people who were important to preservation in Norwalk used to live there? And so, there's no reason to do that.
The least they could have done was lived in a historically significant house.
That's right. Yeah,
It's kind of hard to do on the hour salary, I'm sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think what's going to be really important is, David, you and Todd, particularly your testimony, so to speak, I think will be really important to the council.
absolutely. We could get people from Preservation Connecticut too, if you wanted them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's not a new, it already, the ordinance already exists and it already applies to all these buildings anyway.
Yeah.
But again, the lion's share of them, we don't care about. They're not significant. They're, and a lot of times they're just awful eyesores that we're all happy to see go. So,
Right. But this would also expand it to things, that aren't currently covered. Now, there may be some discussion about that. That's perfectly reasonable.
I mean, the last item sort of refers to blight on your definitions.
Right.
And so,
It's
I'm
demolition
curious,
by- Yeah,
yeah, I'm sort of curious about that one. How to think about
that might be covered under other things. It might be covered under the blight ordinance. I mean, it's demolition by neglect is an important issue. I mean, that's what was going on at 93 East Avenue.
I'm about to say the picture behind Todd is a good example of them deliberately letting the house go and then having to fix it.
Right. But we had to sue them under SEPA, which took, years and cost God knows how much money. So you don't want to get to that point. But that's an interesting thing. I mean, where does that belong? I mean, it needs to be addressed, but where does that belong? Does it belong in a demolition delay ordinance? Does it belong in a blight ordinance? Where does it belong?
well, having it in two places might make it stronger.
Yeah. I wonder what Bill Ireland would say about that.
Yeah. Well,
I'll have to ask
that's a
him.
good question. I mean, nobody's asked him about any of this yet that I know of.
I mean, demolition by neglect, doesn't that also create a public safety hazard?
Exactly. But then you share, you tread that difficult tightrope between it's a public safety hazard, so it ought to be demolished, or how did it get there in the first place?
Yeah.
Dana, it would be nice to see at the next meeting, a version of the ordinance for all of us to look at with the two changes we're talking about.
Right.
The extended
Okay.
period and then Todd's definitional changes.
I can do that this week at work and send it out over email if that helps anyone.
Oh, great, thanks.
That'd be great.
Yeah, really. That would be tremendous.
Okay, so I guess if anyone wants to send in any additional ideas, send it around to all of us. That would be great also.
With David's caveat, I mean, anything you add
Yeah.
can make it more difficult.
Right, just to
Right.
kind of think. We're missing some zinger, so to speak.
Well, and literally, we should step back and look at it and say, okay, is this going to be too much? Because
Right.
the big prize here is getting the 180 days. I mean, the definitions are really needed, but I don't want to sacrifice getting the 180 days for the definitions, and we can come back and add that. But
Yeah, but you can offer up some of the definitions as a sacrifice to get the 180 days.
That's very true. You're very smart, Eric.
It happens,
Thinking
it happens
exactly the
once a
same
month.
thing.
That's why he gets the big bucks.
Exactly the same thing. I mean, if leave the one that's about demolition by neglect in there as a sacrifice if it has to be.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. what I
Ooh,
was
nice,
thinking.
nice, Todd. You get the next Bugs Bunny Wascowee Wabbit Award.
So it looks like, are we ready to move on to B, Whistleville Historic District launch? And I think we'll let Laura talk about that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to update everybody on the work that was going on there. I sent a press release that I sent to all of you, but I also sent it to Josh Morgan from the city, who was going to send it to some of the local news outlets just to advertise that there is a new historic district in town. And it's also going to go up on the Norwalk Tomorrow blog, which will then go on some of the social media. I looked into street signs for that area, but what we found out after David spoke with Jim Travers is that the town is interested in redesigning, I think, all of their street signs. And so we need to pause on that portion of it while they kind of figure out the redesign. Luckily, the redevelopment authority has already put some like temporary flags in the area that say Whistleville to kind of designate the area. We don't expect those to last too long, like probably no more than 2 or 3 seasons, but something while we wait for the sign action. And then 2 other ideas that I had been speaking about with a few people to kind of officially, let people know they're in a historic district. One is holding a public meeting and advertising it to people in the area, talking about the different like funding and financing opportunities to homeowners who own historic homes. So they want to, redo their facade or something like that. And someone from the state offered to come in and do that actually. So we can plan that. And then the other thing was, I think Todd suggested that the Preservation Trust, sorry, Todd, if you're not into this anymore, feel free to back out, but.
Fine, it's fine. I got the nomination. I want this to happen.
Okay, Todd suggested that maybe the Preservation Trust would lead a walking tour through the area, kind of talking about the history of it. And so that could we could advertise that to neighbors and people in town and kind of just get the word out there that there is this new historic district.
Okay.
So I think that the community meeting is like super important that you do that sooner rather than later, particularly as press releases go out, because, the homeowners will go, oh, wow, this is where I live. Do I know about this? I mean, we did talk to a lot of people, but it's been a number of years, 5-6 years ago. So I think having the community meeting soon is a really good idea and will save a lot of anxiety on a lot of people's parts.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And try to, because there's going to be all kinds of, of myths and misunderstandings and everything else out there. So, that's a really good idea.
Do we need signs in other languages by any chance? Spanish?
Because there's a lot of Hispanic and patois speaking people there.
Yeah, patois.
And
Didn't Crystal
did.
Theater? I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
All right.
No, I was going to say when we were doing the sessions, the input sessions for all of this 5 years ago, whenever it was, we did do everything, and we advertised in Spanish and I think Haitian, pretty much everything. So, but people don't remember.
Yeah,
Right.
and we got, because it's been a long time, and I was in every one of those meetings, and we didn't get a single Spanish speaking, anybody but an English speaker.
One thing that I'm new to this process, so maybe you guys can fill me in. For the public meeting, if we do have a translator, we probably have to pay that person. And then based on what space we use, we might have to rent the space. And then based on how we choose to advertise, like if we're mailing letters to all the homeowners or something, we probably have to pay for that. And I don't know if that's if that comes from the historical commission budget, if it's able to, or if we have to vote on that. It would be helpful.
David, excuse me, can you do it at District B meeting, you think?
You could, you would certainly include that, but the commission has a little bit of funds that could probably cover most of what you're talking about. I think that, we met in that church down on Lexington Avenue.
Oh,
And I think seems like we got that through Mary Mann's sister. We could, and they didn't charge us anything. I mean, I don't remember being charged. We could make a small donation. So I'd rather do it down in the neighborhood so that, that on Lexington Avenue, so it's easy for people who are affected to get there.
Yeah.
District B meets usually, well, we haven't met in a long time, but down at the Smilo Center on Chestnut. It's not really, that's viewed as more political than neighborhoody, I guess.
yeah, and that's
It's certainly something to cover at District B for sure.
it's a good location and people know where it is and it's big
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, and I think the commission can pay for mailings or, whatever you need, translator, Laura, that's not a problem.
Is it a redevelopment area? Is that, I think you've got to,
Yes.
it is?
Yeah.
So you might be willing to put up a few bucks.
Well, probably not, since I said that the commission has the money to pay for it. Whoops, oh well.
You didn't hear that, did you?
You're talking about a few $100.
But
This
you
is
said
like
only a
few
little.
$100. This is not a lot of money,
You said only a little, David, only a little money.
only a little, yeah.
From what I've heard, a few different business owners in town that grew up in the area are really interested in seeing it, I guess, get spruced up a little. And so they've been donating for, I think, the signs that went up, and then as well
Great.
as I think they're planning to put in some trash cans along the street, just to
Great.
prevent any more like street trash. So I think that along with us, I think the redevelopment authority is kind of working in that area.
Well, I don't know if you've been speaking with Jess about this, because I know she's been doing a bunch of stuff around the city.
I spoke with Sabrina.
Oh, well, Sabrina would
told me
know
about
too.
with Silva.
Sabrina would, yeah, okay.
Well, I talked to somebody about, I think maybe it was just about making the Ely Avenue portion of the district, a village district, so that it's subject to design review. I don't want to do that I talked to Steve about this, yeah. I don't want to do the residential part because it would be too complicated for the homeowners. But for the commercial businesses, those are those same quality of buildings that we have on Washington Street. And if you put them in a village district, then they're subject to design review by the redevelopment agency. And I think that would be a good thing and make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that would make a lot of, because we originally talked about putting the whole thing into a village
Yeah.
district. But I mean, I think you're right. It might make it more complicated than it needs to be. But those businesses, that could go in any direction.
Would designating the Whistleville the historic district, is that going to impact building the South Norwalk School? Does that come into play with that?
Not really.
No.
I know they're eyeballing a piece of property down in South Norwalk.
Only if they're going to demolish some buildings.
No, the commission got involved in the Columbus School proposal where there was a proposal to demo the Columbus School, and we worked with the SHPO to have the state deemed it eligible for the National Historic Register, which then triggers a whole nother set of complications if you're using taxpayer money to demo the building, and makes it next impossible to do. so then the school board, the BOE then went back and said, well, we'll do a full renovation instead. And then they talked about it, doing a big addition next to it, which then got vetoed. And now they're looking at buying all that land. But it doesn't, the Whistle bill doesn't include Columbus School. So, but it has, I'm telling you this because Columbus School has its own thing we already attached to it. So I'm making it eligible for the National Register. So, that'll help save it, whatever it becomes.
Okay.
Can you ask Wendell where she got the signs for the oyster? What's the name of our district in our
Simmons
way?
Row.
No,
Oh,
she got them
you
from DPW.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
did
Okay.
them as a sample.
That was Hal.
Oh, Hal, okay.
Yeah. But if they're redoing the signs all around the city, we need to be aware of that.
Right. Be nice to have the same kind just to keep Rowayton from falling into the sea and ending up in Darien. Don't write that down. I'll just swim back.
I'm on the Tourism Committee, and there's been yet again a lot of discussion about signage in Norwalk. How many studies have there been? 3, 4?
And
None of
over
which-
how long a period?
Oh, 10 years.
I was on the first 2. I refused to be on the third because it's like, this isn't ever going to happen. It's like,
Nobody ever
whatever.
pulls the trigger. I mean, the good news is you don't have to do it again. It's all there. Just
It's like, just go
buy
to
the damn
Stanford
sign.
and drive around and copy what they have. It's fine. It's utilitarian. It works. That's all we need.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to certified local government discussion?
So I have some good news on that front. I spoke with Mary Dunn from the state, and she said that she thinks we should proceed with our application for the certified local government despite not issuing certificates of appropriateness. Kind of based on the rationale that David and Todd had shared, that we have the ordinance already, and so we should put the application in, and if someone chooses to stop us because we're not issuing certificates of appropriateness, we'll kind of hit that when we get to it, and concurrently try to work with our own government to start issuing them. But since we have a historic district and we have a historic commission, she's not certain that will be a problem. She says that it shouldn't be a problem with the National Park Service, who I guess, administer the program, but it could potentially be a problem with the state where she works. So she's looking into that for us. But in the meantime, I'm going to get started with the certified local government application. So hopefully we can eventually become the CLG.
Great.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of a little lost here. What are we considering doing as a certified local government? Are we talking about specific areas? Fill me in, please.
Sure. So the Certified Local Government Program is administered through the National Park Service. And it's basically a recognition of governments that work or communicate, get advice from the state historic commission, as well as the National Park Service. And, kind of just follow the rules in terms of historic districts, and are doing their best in trying to preserve America's historic resources.
Okay, all right. Okay. Excuse me, my concern was we had some people here in our condo complex that were trying to set up a there's another program where you can have a local government district, and there was some real problems on the back end of that. So as long as I know that what you're talking about is not that, I'm okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and it also opens the door to increased funding. Like all the grants that most of the grants that cities are eligible for get bumped up by a percentage because you're a certified local government.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
It's just a designation. It's truly a designation of Norwalk as a CLG. And then that opens up, like Todd said, grant money, training money, for, like we can get training for the commission. What a novel idea. And it's a respect thing with the state, because it's just, we're kind of this screwball thing because we don't have a CLG and pretty much everybody else does. So it helps us with the SHPO that the city overall is taking it seriously.
Yeah, okay, so that's different from the kind of an autonomous local government idea that some of the rabid dogs here at Sunny Ledgebrook condominiums we're considering to set ourselves up as our own local taxing district and governmental entity. And the problem at the back end is if it goes south, then the city takes everything. So
yeah, Norwalk certainly needs another taxing district.
yeah, sure.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, David. So this is a designation for Norwalk
Yes.
Yeah.
and would be administered through the Historical Commission?
Yes, it's all already in the code. It's already in the ordinances were created in the 80s and we never implemented them.
Okay.
Right, but through a number of, Esposito and Mocha administrations, the folklore was that it didn't actually exist, even though it remained in the code for all this time.
Right.
So the
It's just
Historical
stupid.
Commission, today Norwalk, tomorrow the world.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't think it'd be a problem with the state because it would have to be approved by the Connecticut Historical Commission. And they are generally very sympathetic to anything like this. And we go up there and explain the situation, they'll go for it, my opinion.
And when I spoke with, I guess the bare minimum to be a part of this group is to have a local historic district like we do on the Green.
Right.
And so when I was speaking with Mary and telling her about, the Historic Commission's interest in demo delays and our various village districts and how we have this new national district over in Whistleville, it sounds like she's, so impressed that you guys are going above and beyond, that it was kind of absurd to her that we weren't already a CLG just because of all the actions that you have been taking. So I think, like you said, Todd, I think they'll be pretty sympathetic.
Oh, yeah.
Absurd is a really good description. Apt description for most of what's gone on in Norwalk with historic stuff.
So that's
Yeah,
everything.
okay. Yeah, the one thing that had me sort of stumped was our resumes. I mean, all I have is a minor in art history. That's about as historically educated as I am. I don't know what anyone else has. So
She mentioned that you can list, so one part of the application, as Dana's referring to, is that all the commission members have to provide a resume that suggests why they're qualified to be on the commission. And she suggested that, what can be on there, it doesn't have to be formal education, but you can talk about the different like volunteer things you do in town. So if any of you volunteer with like the Historical Commission or have attended any lectures from the Historical Commission or Preservation Trust, that counts.
okay, we can just pad the resume.
So
Right.
Dana, you could
Everybody-
legitimately say,
Join the Preservation Trust.
Yeah.
And Dana, you
Quick
can
Caribbean.
$40
legitimately say that you took 90% of the photos that are on the Find a Grave website. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I forgot about that. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
just in Norwalk.
No, and I think the world.
No.
So then are we going to actively collect resumes of the individual commission members? And if so, where are they going to go?
Yes, so she
Permanent
said
record.
that's the hardest part about the application. just in case anyone's worried. So that's the most difficult part. And I think it goes as part of the package of our application. So I don't think we'll like post it on I don't intend to post it on our website or anything.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I mean, when we do them, and I'm presuming everybody will,
Mhm.
where are we sending them? Are we sending them to Dana? Are we sending them to you, Laura?
Yeah, I was gonna do the application as part of my kind of administrative tasks for the historical commission. So I can collect them all.
Because believe me, I have no problem patting myself on the back.
Cool.
And they're due tomorrow at 8 a.m.
As the people who've worked with me in the past are very much aware.
Cool.
So does this,
They all,
this does not need council approval?
No, council's already approved it. It's all.
Good, that's what
in-
I want to make sure.
It's
'cause
all
I-
in the ordinances, it's all there.
Good, okay.
I don't see anything that the council has to do. There's no action.
yeah, it's been in the code since the 80s.
Good answer.
Do you have that code, that number off the top of your head or where I can find it?
I do not.
Unless the application requires a resolution from the council. That's, I don't know.
Right. That's something
have
I
to
can
see
look
what's-
into.
Look into it. I think this is probably something that can be done pretty quickly, but I just want to make sure we get it to the right people.
Yep.
Right.
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 I can definitely look into that. And Mary, the woman from the state that I spoke with, was gonna send me an example of another town's application. And she suggested I just pull as much as I can from there. And so she hasn't emailed it to me yet. So once I see that, I think I'll get a better idea of what is needed. The application itself, the link doesn't work on their website, so I haven't seen the official application as much as I've just seen descriptions of generally what's needed. So once I get those materials from Mary, I'll certainly send out an email to all of you and kind of with next steps and action items, that sort of thing.
And if she sends some resumes, we could just change the names.
Yep.
I didn't say that, did,
Let us know if there's a particular format that the resumes have to follow.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
It's really good news.
yeah.
Right.
So I think we're up to next. This is Laura's night at the Historical Commission. Next, we're doing virtual meeting procedure updates.
Yeah, so I emailed everyone the procedure updates. I just wanted to make sure that we were following them. I don't know exactly what's being done right now and what's not being done, but we should try to follow them. And I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Yeah, the only thing it seems to me is that the agendas and notices may not be coming in a timely fashion.
When would you like them? Agendas are my fault.
Aren't they supposed to be like 48 hours before or 24 hours before, something like that?
Yeah, I think they have to be 48 hours before. And I was just wondering how you guys notice them, because I think we should probably be posting them on the Historical Commission page 48 hours in advance, which I can do at my desk, every Monday or something. But I didn't know if someone's already doing that.
I have
don't
to
think
send
so.
in all that stuff by Friday. I try to get it before noon. I try to get that all in, and then I try to not send it to everyone until Monday. But I don't know if I did that this Monday. The meeting, the agenda and minutes is what I try to get to, rather than have it just get lost over the weekend electronically. So I don't remember when I sent it this week, but that's my fault. The rest isn't.
The agenda's on the website.
Okay.
I just want
Yeah,
to sign off
okay.
and wanted to let you know that the Historic District is chapter 56 in the city code.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, good night, folks.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
The other piece on there that I thought might be somewhat important is instructions for public access to the meetings. I know P and Z has like a standard language that they put on all of their agendas that we could just put on ours also. If you want me to add that, I can do that.
Yeah. 'Cause I don't know.
I was under the impression that, and I could be wrong on this, that the folks who set up the meeting do all that. And, you know, we have the city, I'm not sure who's administering the meeting tonight, but I thought they did all that stuff, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I sent the stuff to Rebecca and Irene and Donna.
Yeah, those three, pretty much, they do all that, so.
Then maybe we're good to go then. I didn't know if anyone was doing it or if I was supposed to be. So if someone else is, we're good. I just wanted to
Well,
make sure it was getting done.
So
You
So
should check
I
with
would-
Donna.
Okay.
I do think, am I muted? Laura, I think that the way it should work is that Dana should come up with the agenda, or you and Dana collaborative should come up with the agenda, and then you should take responsibility for getting the agenda through, you know, posted, added, whether language needs to be, that should be part of your role.
I can do that.
Because again, it's like not really fair to volunteers to have to worry about, oh my gosh, are we complying with the latest, you know, FOI thing for Zoom meetings? Because, you know, who knows?
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
But all that's the way it works for all the other commissions. And I'm big on, let's get the historical commission to be like every other commission, so that volunteers, you know, because we dropped the ball. I mean, because we're just, you know, this isn't what we do, but it is what you do and what the city does. So I think that you should work with Dana, whoever the chair is on the agenda, and then you should shepherd it through all the hoops and make sure all the I's and T's are dotted and crossed. And that's the
Right.
only way to make sure we're really complying with stuff.
Because you obviously don't have enough to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of take over whatever I need to. I also didn't want to step on anyone's toes. So
Please
whatever.
step on our toes,
Yeah,
please.
step away, step on our toes.
I'll work with Donna to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
and make
I
sure we
know in the
comply.
past, when we've met in person, we haven't had a whole lot of public participation. For whatever reason.
Well, there is when there's a controversial.
Yeah,
subject.
controversial
I mean,
stuff. Yeah.
you know, they come out of the woodwork, and that's okay. But you know, most of the time
Torches and
it's pretty
pitchforks.
standard stuff. So
Okay. Well, that was all. I can definitely kind of take that over and make sure we're following all the rules.
Great.
Thank you.
Now, normally we're not scheduled for August. Do we think we want to take the month off or keep chipping away at the demolition delay, or just?
Well, if the demolition delay isn't going to get on the council agenda until November, taking August
At the
off
earliest.
to ruminate.
Yeah,
And if the changes are going to be relatively few, if you will, I wouldn't hold a meeting just for that.
okay.
Should we just communicate through email about those couple of demo notices? And
Right.
following through with those?
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
we've got quite a few going on.
right. I don't know what to do about, maybe Laura can help us with the lack of communication. I have been getting stuff occasionally from Bill Eiler, but it's usually from Leo about demolitions. And I don't remember the last time I got one.
Yeah, I have that on my notes to check in with them, and I'll see if Steve has gotten any notices that I haven't seen. But yeah, I'll definitely just remind everyone that we're looking for them and see if we can get them
Right.
sent automatically.
It is kind of freaky when we drive around and see a demo notice up or an empty lot. That's also scary.
How did that get there?
The Wizard of Oz, the tornado came. Twista. It was a Twista. So I guess that is it for tonight.
Move to adjourn?
Oh, yes, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Do we have another? I think I see Mark's hand. Tom's hand. Okay, so all in favor of adjournment. See you in September. Well,
Right.
Come on, Dana, sing it.
no, that's okay. I'll just find you at the Stop and Shop parking lot again.
Listen, next time, don't assault my car.
I did not say that. No. All right.
All right.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
the rest
everyone.
of the summer, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.